just a show of hands, how many of you in here are currently married? Okay, years, how many?
62.
62.
41.
41? 23?
29.
29? 25? 3?
55.
55? 60? 48. Okay, now, do you hear that?
50.
50, Ed Kelly? Natalie, I don't know how you've done it all those years. Just do not know. It's amazing, though, when you hear these years. I mean, especially, now, for those, please, Julie, 3 years ago, you'll remember yours 3 years ago. I remember mine 3 years ago. But 62, 60 years, do you remember your wedding?
Yes.
Like it was yesterday?
Yes.
All the details?
Yes.
Everyone? Do you remember all the stress that was involved getting ready for the wedding?
Yes.
I mean, let's be honest, folks. Anytime somebody gets married, the stress leading up to the wedding is far greater than the actual day itself, especially if you happen to be a bridezilla or have a mother-in-law bridezilla. So, mother-in-lawzilla. Nobody here would ever be like that. You know, I had the joy 2 weeks ago yesterday of getting to partake in my first English wedding. A good friend of mine, Adam, and his fiancée, Vicky, got married in Newcastle upon Tyne in northeast England. And it was amazing. You know, weddings are so different no matter where you go. The service itself are generally always about the same. You know, there's always going to be some sort of reading, there's going to be the exchange of vows, the giving of rings, the pronouncement that they're married. That's all the same. But the differences all end up being what I find to be in the party afterwards. Now, I grew up in the Midwest. It wasn't uncommon just to have cake and punch in the church hall afterwards. The folks that people do in Long Island here, oh man. I know, it's crazy. The first wedding I came, I remember I went and there was the cocktails and all the big stands of the food and everything, and I was there. I said, oh, this is really nice. And then somebody looked at me and said, don't eat too much. I said, what do you mean? Well, this is just the cocktail hour. And then you move to another room for like a 3-4 hours. Well, you never get your course, the main dinner, till like 11 o'clock at night, it always seems. This English wedding was a little different because the service was at noon. And then there was these formal pictures with everything that happened, and you get a glass of champagne, some canapes, and then the wedding breakfast. Do you remember your wedding breakfast? The wedding breakfast happened at 3 o'clock, which is really just a dinner. And that went from 3 to 6, and then from 6 to midnight there was dancing and partying. So that was a long day. Now the bride was beautiful. But, you know, she's been planning this for more than a year. You know, working on all the fine details. You know, you guys are going to get married next year. You're working on the details already, you know. Who's going to be invited? What should the colors be? What's this going to be? What's that going to be? But imagine you get everything all ready for your big day. And you get to the wedding, and nobody shows up. How'd you feel? Hey, Phil, if you pay for your daughter's wedding there, and nobody shows up for the reception, how will you feel? Not good. You know, not good would be an understatement. I mean, you'd be angry, but I think you'd really be hurt. Probably just really crying inside like, what's wrong with me? Why I have everything prepared. I have this big spread, this big banquet. It's open for you. But you don't come to it. Well, that's what Jesus' parable was today. He tells a story about the king who has a banquet, wedding banquet for his son. All the guests are invited, and they don't show up. I mean, this isn't just a wedding for like a commoner. This is the king's son. And they didn't show up. Those who were called were invited, but they made excuses not to come. So the king said, fine. Let's get rid of the red velvet ropes, open up, and come and let everyone come on in. Except for the poor guy who wasn't dressed for the banquet, and that's another story. You know, I can't help but wonder, though, how much you and I are just like those men and women who are invited to the banquet, but we just don't show up. You know, each and every week, God calls us to come to the altar to receive a banquet of Jesus, which should lead us and help us for the next week. But how easy is it for us to make excuses? To say, oh, I'm too tired today, I don't want to go, or oh, I have this I have to do, the shopping event, or you know what, now I'll just go next week. And then next week becomes the next week. You see, we're not much different than those people who were invited to the banquet who didn't come forward. Human beings are sort of like that. In fact, we're sort of fickle a lot of times. Jesus hangs and dangles a heavenly banquet in front of us, and all we have to do is receive. But because we get preoccupied so often with ourselves, with our own needs, we miss that opportunity to be fed and renewed, and then to go forth and to serve. You and I have an opportunity today to recommit to come forward to the heavenly banquet. That banquet which has been prepared for us. We are the invited guests, and we need to make sure that those doors are always open to make sure anyone can come in and receive themselves. And trust me, if they come in not properly dressed, I'm not going to throw them into the fire where there's going to be weeping or gnashing of teeth. If that's the case, Nancy would have been there a long time. You have to know, she came to me before the service and said, you know, people came to me and said, I got off scot-free the last 2 weeks, so ask and you shall receive. My friends, come to the banquet. Come today, come always, and be filled. Amen.
Amen.
I'm sending that to the bishop, so he